Welcome back, folks of the Speed Street community. My name is Connor Daly, alongside Chase Holden here. We're very, very excited to be back this week. I really hope everyone enjoyed the Alex Palou interview last week. Very cool that we get to do that with the IndyCar Series winners. If you're a new listener, we get to interview every race winner this year. So thankful to the NTT IndyCar Series for letting us do that. A lot has went on over the last week, honestly. We did that interview. We had a great time with it. Great show. And then there was a ton of testing last week. You had rookies on the oval in Texas. You had drivers running the hybrids and non-hybrids, people using their test days at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A lot of teams all the teams that didn't get to run the hybrids have now run them. So that was, that's a lot of laps, a lot more testing than normal, I would say, this year because of the new introduction of the hybrids. So there's, so that was exciting to talk about. And thankfully, for all those drivers that participated, there weren't a lot of talk of the results of those test days. So thank God you don't have to answer dumb questions about, why were you sixth at the random hybrid IndyCar test? No one cares. It doesn't matter. It really does not. I did get a read, though, from some of the guys. I was playing some golf with Kyle Kirkwood and Colton Herta, and they were saying that the hybrids were quite close to the non-hybrids because Colton Herta and Kyle Kirkwood were running the non-hybrids while the hybrids were running, and there was about 0.4 of a difference, so not too bad. Anyway, nice. That's a little bit of news. Chase, how you doing, my friend? I didn't mean to ignore you, but I got locked in there on testing. So how we doing?
Nah, you never ignore me, man. Look, anytime we got to talk about finishing positions from practice, we're definitely
we know it's important.
Yeah, we got to chill,
Speculate.
But no, it's good, man. Ton of news, like you said, has went down. It's been it's different. I'm adjusting to this not having IndyCar races every weekend. Coming from the NASCAR world, always a race every weekend. That's a big debate a lot of people are having. Does NASCAR have too many races? So I'm adjusting, but I'm really excited for Long Beach coming up. That is one of the events that I have definitely paid a little bits of attention to over the years, but I know that there's a lot of rich history. I know we're going to get into a great discussion with that with our good pal Kevin.
Yes.
Coming on to the show, talk a little bit about Long Beach and some of the news that's been coming out about that. But other than that, man, just been collecting these race cards.
Yep.
Shout out to that. Also, little bit of that Pokemon playing.
There you go.
We've just been wilding out. It's been very interesting times in the International Chase Station over here. So
I respect that. That's great. There is a lot to discuss. As Chase mentioned, we will have I remember about a month ago, we did a bit of a roundtable discussion, the People's Podium per se. There's a lot of things to talk about. Couple big items, I would say, that we talk about. I got my buddy Kevin back to talk with us. He's got a lot of strong opinions, but also just a great conversationalist. I think we talk a lot about a few interesting things. We talk about how Liberty has bought MotoGP. We talk about the real postmortem of the whole thermal situation. I think it's time to move forward. We're moving forward. But we kind of wanted to see, hey, let's take a evaluation of everything that's gone on, all of the attacks on people that were in no way affiliated with the event, all the attacks on the people that didn't need to be attacked for this event.
All the podiums that were attacked.
Exactly. We attacked that podium because it deserved to be attacked.
Sometimes you got to attack the podium.
Exactly. And then also we talk about how amazing the purchase of the 50% of the Long Beach Grand Prix by Jerry Forsyth is. That is later on in the show. It's a fantastic thing to talk about. So we've got some great stuff there. Fantastic stuff. One thing I wanted to start out with, though, real quick. Pato Award has followed me on Instagram. Big day. I just got that notification by yesterday. I didn't think that – I honestly thought he had already followed me. Turns out we're locked in now. I don't know. I don't know if that's because my cousin's child now owns a Pato Award jersey. On Easter. I don't know if you saw my Instagram story, but my mother got my cousin's child a Pato Award jersey. I was a little offended. I was a little bit taken aback by that. Not going to lie. But Pato's an exciting young driver. So maybe that's it. I don't know. So anyway, I thought that was big news. Pato not doing the Joseph Newgarden program and unfollowing everyone. He's actually spreading the love. He's getting involved in the community.
I know. I'm still waiting on the day when you're going to follow me on X. That's going to be a great day.
I don't follow anyone on X anymore. I've kept it at 500.
He's taken that.
Also,
okay,
you're my entire
right.
Explore page, so I thought I already followed you.
Oh, wow. Okay, well,
That's
see,
kind of
there
a
we
weird
go.
thing. It was the same with Joe Pompliano. We interviewed Joe Pompliano. I was like, Joe, I see your tweets all the time. I realized I didn't follow you. Turns out you were my entire Explore page.
The algorithm learned you. It learned what you need to do. I like the whole themed following thing, though. I see what you're doing there with the 500. You know, I know some people in the New Orleans area. They stopped at like 504.
Hey, let's look at it right now. We're gonna make the action happen. We're gonna click on the follow button. And now I follow Garage Guy Chase on X.
Who are you going to unfollow now? That's
now
the question.
I do have to unfollow someone. We should do a live unfollowing.
We're doing a live unfollow. Maybe
unfollowing.
I typically will go, like, I had a few people follow me a few years ago in the racing space, and this guy was following like the teams from that old spring football league.
Oh,
I was like, great place to start.
Yep,
right there.
Yep. Man, I don't know who we unfollow here. This is kind of wild. Maybe
somebody big, somebody that it will make like mad. Like definitely,
I would never do that.
They'll call you and be like, "Hey, is everything okay?" Like,
I don't know why
headlines.
I follow Proper 12. Oh, I follow Proper 12 Irish Whiskey because I thought at one point they were going to sponsor me. We had a whole livery done up of that for an IndyCar, Conor McGregor, because I'm Conor as well. But they didn't do anything with me, so I have unfollowed Proper 12 Irish Whiskey on X on Twitter.
So
there we go. We did a live unfollowing today on the Twitter sphere.
Very nice. See, big news for us. 2 followers one day. Beautiful.
Speaking of big news, there's one thing that honestly I want to get to because we have the segment with Kevin is very long and distinguished. It's tremendous. But there was some news recently that I think we can get into that has a lot of interesting, I guess, like what else happens after this type questions. There's a new team that Marshall Pruitt had written about, the Prema Power Team. Well, I knew him as the Prema Power Team, but Prema is an F2 team. I believe they also have F3 cars. I believe the same person that owns Prema also owns the Iron Dames WEC team and also the Iron Lynx WEC team. That's what Marshall Pruitt, I believe, told me. Don't swear by that, but I believe that's the same ownership. So clearly there's a good funding source behind that operation. Fascinating, honestly. That I did not expect this as a new team, but apparently they already have engine leases from Chevrolet. I read that in his story, I believe, or they might have engine leases, something like that.
That's huge.
Or they're this is all allegedly. I was reading stuff on the internet, and again, everything on the internet's true, except for that it's not. But that is fascinating because if that is the case, and there's 2 new entries. First of all, I got a call. Second of all, Romain Grosjean drives for this team in WEC. Interesting connection. Interesting. I don't know where they're going to operate. They're a European team. So where do they go? Do they have a U.S. base? When Carlin came over, Carlin had a base in Florida. So Carlin had their shop in Florida. Carlin obviously was a very British team. I would say that was the last time a team of this much of a European nature has come over or is planning to come over. And now, again, we don't know until they show up with banners and pit equipment and race cars and drivers. We obviously don't know this, but I think it's a very exciting move. I think we see that there is some good, like, people want to be in IndyCar. It's great. I don't know how they're going to fit 29 race cars at some of these racetracks, though. I'm not going to lie. My first question was, are we going to lose a couple cars? Because, like, fitting 29 race cars, never going to happen at Toronto. It's never going to happen right now. You're going to have to figure out a whole new pit lane situation. But again, this is a good problem to have. Not a bad problem. It's a good problem.
It's a growth problem.
I do. Yeah, exactly. So I think this is awesome news for our series. I don't think, again, we're getting enough credit for this type of investment, right? 29 open wheel cars full time. I mean, people thought it was crazy. Like, I thought it was crazy when I was in GP3 and the fields were like mandated to be 30 cars, like 30 open wheel cars. That's a ton of racing cars. Like, that is a lot. So that makes, I think you got to, if we have 29 race cars, I think you have to adjust the point system. I think you got to adjust the way points are paid out. I think the prize money system has to change because you can't just pay to 12th. I think you got to pay to at least 15th if you're going to get that many more entries. That strong of a field. So it just brings about a lot of other good problems, right? Like, hey, how do we make this happen? Because I think you get 29 cars, you got to have 20 races. Like we're gonna do some Q&As, and a lot of people asked about the schedule. We got to have more races for more cars. You know what I mean? Goodness
sure
gracious,
do.
these people are investing into the series. I mean, Chase, what do you think of this? If you think, hey, new team, boom, let's go. More people, more business to the series, potentially a bit of a European influence.
No, that's all it is just more business, and then with more business comes more adaptation. So it's time to, the fire's lit. So it's, you can't just sit around and keep doing things the same way you've done them now. It's like, okay, now we've got to get to the drawing board. We've got to go, go buy you a whiteboard, do some strategy. That's really where you've got to focus now, because we're going to see this trend, right? I think we can get to maybe 30 to 32 cars.
I don't think we need many more, honestly. I really don't. I don't think we need NASCAR numbers of cars. Like, NASCAR has a ton of cars, and you never see half of them for the race. You know what I mean? So,
true.
I think, but here's the thing.
But we're looking at it for like an influx of capital. We're looking at it for an influx of people that are watching.
But does there need to be a cap to make it so that all these entries already are worth more, right? Like the charter system, because you got the 36 cars with the charters, right? Or the 30, is it 36 or 38? 36.
Yeah, you got to have the exclusivity, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to have something that's going to offer that. So they can figure that out. But I think the main thing to focus on right now is you're at 29. So let's get to the drawing board for 2025, because we definitely are going to want to see some new things. We want to see the whole sport really adapt to this move. And that could really just be a whole box of goodies. We have no clue what that's going to look like right at this moment. Would love to have more conversations about what that looks like.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be important for the IndyCar fans, the listeners of this show. If you are really ready to see this sport kaboom the way that you want it to, it's time to get talking about it online. It's time to get talking about it with your friends, your coworkers, everybody else. Like, talk about what could be maybe some ideas. Throw them out there into the public. Don't be afraid, because somebody could see that, pick it up and run.
You would have 9 more drivers to cheer for than Formula One.
If
IndyCar somehow has 29 entries next year, or even in the coming years, like that's amazing. I think that's great news. But again, I think you're going to have to make these entries more valuable. We've got, the leader circle, as we explained in our kind of prize money episode. The leader circle pays the top 22 in points an extra $1 million. So that's $22 million, and it's actually more than $22 million now. So if you've got 29 entries now fighting for this $22 million, do you get rid of the leader circle program but pay more prize money per race? Like, it's the same system as NASCAR now, because NASCAR, there's great prize money, and if you're a successful entrant into these races, if you go to a motor race and you're like, well, I can win $350,000 here a weekend, or $250,000 a weekend. When we sell sponsorship for IndyCar races, usually it's probably on the low end, it's $250,000 a weekend, high end $350,000 a weekend. If you can make that by just winning the race, that helps teams cover their cost. It helps teams cover a lot of things. So I think that there's going to be a lot to think about. And again, these are good things to think about, but we have to do them appropriately. And I think, I don't know the answer. Again, I'm not Roger Penske, but I think if you're excited to see more business, potentially more sponsors come into the series, I'm all for it. But I think we got to distribute the wealth a little bit. Distribute the wealth, make it so the teams that are competing for 15th, it's a big day for them, right? It's like the same thing in Formula One, where you got people fighting for 10th, because that's a point, and a point pays a lot in Formula One. So how do we somehow adapt a bit of that? How do we somehow make it? And now, again, I don't know if a charter system is the answer. I don't know if it is, but you've got to make these teams, because you want to take in the 2 new ones, but you also don't want to be like, well, we're leaving, and then you lose 2 of the Juncos cars, or you lose 2 Foyt cars or something, another small team who's been around a long time, who are good people. You don't want to lose them. So interesting discussion to have, but I think all very positive, Chase.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we don't necessarily need answers right this minute, but we need ideas. The
Indeed.
more ideas we have, the more answers we'll get.
Yeah. Also, fun thing, you'll probably be listening to this show when this is happening, but 100 Days to Indy on Netflix, April 4th. So this is April 2nd when we're recording this. April 4th, you can watch 100 Days to Indy on Netflix. So
I'm excited.
Be sure to check that out. If you haven't watched it yet, guess what? It's on Netflix. Apparently, that's a big deal. I love it. So that's great. We get into a lot, obviously, later with Kevin, but there's many things to be excited about. We have an Indy Open test coming up next week. And again, we will record a show. I believe. Hang on. What's the day of that? Yeah. So we will record a show next week, the day before the Indy test, and I might have to have some work here from my co-hosts on when we record the show. We might have to record it over the weekend or something. So be prepared, team. But technically, our show we record on Tuesdays. The test is Wednesday, Thursday. So I'm going to be in engineering meetings and stuff like that. But I love this. I love seeing on my schedule that next week we've got an Indy test to look forward to, which potentially means that you might see a driver announcement from Coin for their Indy 500 entry, because I assume that they would want both of their drivers they're testing that are going to be racing the Indy 500, because right now I believe we only know Nolan Siegel is going to be there for them. I think I know who's going to be driving for the Dale Coyne Racing team, but it's not my position to say that.
Give us the goods.
No, cannot do it. But it is a familiar name, I think, that you might know. So anyway, this is awesome. Chase, it's on Peacock. I assume you might be able to tune in, do a little research. Everyone, I want you guys to make sure that you watch this if you can, because it's going to be awesome to see everyone back out on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, to see cars that are running with some lighter components compared to last year. There's going to be teams really working hard. Teams making a lot of adjustments to try to figure out how to fine-tune these cars so we can start in a better place come the month of May.
There was a post on X, by the way, about this. I was just going to say that somebody had recommended that producer Bobby and I be at the track to live report what's happening, what's going on with you in the car. I think that was a fantastic idea. So, you know,
got to get the Dirty
maybe
Mo
some for the
team
future.
to cover the travel. Get Dirty
Correct.
Mo to cover the travel. And we'll get
Yes,
up there
please.
and do some live reporting.
We've got a report, Dale. Help
It's
us.
very exciting. So Indy Test is coming up. Let's just all hope and cross our fingers that the weather is great. That would be nice. But other than that, we talk a lot about the news in our segment coming up with Kevin. There's a lot of questions that I want to get to real quick. Let's get into a quick Q&A session. We're going to save some of these questions again for maybe next week. But there are a couple questions I asked for some people to submit to us, and I got a ton of submissions. Let's start with first. We got a couple different questions that are the same, and this is easy. We got several people. Drew Rogers and Audrey Carter both want to know who we are rooting for in the Final Four. For me, I had a future on Tennessee and Creighton. That obviously didn't work out for me, so I am going to cheer for Purdue, because I'm an Indiana man and my little brother goes to Purdue. So I have to cheer for Purdue. Chase?
Yeah, I haven't. This has been one of the first years I haven't watched much of the tournament. However, we have an SEC school. I'm from Louisiana, and I really hate Alabama during football season. Did see Alabama here, so I guess I'm rolling with Bama.
All right, little underdog action.
Yeah,
there we go. All right, so let's move into another one. And this one's kind of an interesting one, but this is from Not Dan Marino. It's a great name, first of all. This is not Dan Marino.
Just in case you're wondering, not that guy.
This is not the guy.
No.
Not Miami Dolphins legend, Dan Marino.
Ace Ventura actor, not him. No.
How do IndyCar drivers go about finding sponsors and funding? I mean, that's a question I get every day, essentially. It's the hardest thing to do in sports, and if I knew the answer, I would be racing. full time. So I definitely don't know the answer. My easiest question, and the thing that I tell young drivers all the time, is you have to talk to every single person that you know, every single person that they know, and then again get the emails of those folks that you talk to that know their friends that know their friends. And if there's any type of connection, if there's any type of interaction, use the community around you, use the people that know people. And sometimes it's just lucky too. Sometimes you're in the right place at the right time, but you got to pitch the emotional sell, pitch the actual sell of what, the marketing side of it. Early on in racing, you're pitching the dream. Hey, support me, and I'm going to win the Indy 500 someday. First person I'm going to thank is the guy who, funded me when I was 16. If I win the Indy 500, one of the first people I'm going to thank is Jerry Forsyth when we come up, because he's one of my first investors.
Love that.
A lot of people that, support you early on are those that, they get that satisfaction of like, hey, we're supporting the dream. So that's kind of what I got for that one.
ABC, always be closing. Glenn Ross.
That's Chase's advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into another one here real quick. This is from Skowalsk. How do you feel about Milwaukee and Nashville? New tracks for 24. Competitive? ? I have no idea. I talked to Garrett Smithley last night, NASCAR driver, about Nashville.
Yeah.
The Nashville, it's a concrete track, so that's going to be interesting. Very excited to see the IndyCars test there. Apparently, it's not quite a mile and a half. Is that correct, Chase? You know much about that? It's not quite a mile and a half oval.
It's a little bit under, but they technically they'll advertise it as that. The concrete thing is what's exciting, right? Because I think the last time IndyCar, and I may be mistaken on this, wasn't the last concrete track like Dover? Possibly for IndyCar?
I actually don't know, because I thought Milwaukee was concrete for a while too. So I don't know why. It's definitely unconfirmed reports. But Nashville, I think, has the potential to be exciting. It very much depends on our downforce rules. Very much depends on what type of package is brought there from a grip perspective. I hope that we get a ton of downforce and we can run close and side by side. But I also don't know, which is kind of exciting. Milwaukee. Now, I got to race at Milwaukee for exactly 600 feet in 2009 in Pro Mazda. I qualified third there. I got taken out by my teammate, first corner. So I never got to race anything there, but I got to drive around there. Fun track to drive around, but I in our modern era of IndyCar, I can't see it being a great race, honestly. I hope I am wrong. Now, again, I could be wrong, but my first opinion is like, I don't know. But I do hope everyone tunes in, because I think it's going to be very cool to check it out. It's been so many years since we've been there. It's a different oval. It has, if the tire wear is big, that could be the sell point. If there's a ton of tire wear at Milwaukee, I think you're locked. I think it's awesome. If you got the same tire wear as like Iowa at Milwaukee, lock me in. Lock me into my seat. Actually, I would commit unlawful acts to be there as a driver, but if not, I will be watching. I'll be watching. Chase, did you have a question from your list of questions as well you want to get into?
Yeah. So I had a couple of questions too. We'll start it off. And I think that this is a great one to start off with. So this is from Hunter Carpenter. I started putting more focus in Indy next. Why do you think there's little to no hype for Road to Indy? This is one of those questions. I'll say what I know, but I think you're going to be able to answer this one really good.
Probably.
For me, I think it all boils down to right now, it's like we're just continuing to try to get the NTT IndyCar Series built up and get the driver popularity there. We got to make sure the big show is big enough to support the show right underneath it. I think there are some great up-and-coming drivers in Indy next right now that could help with that personality gap. I mean, you see that in NASCAR. Tony Bredinger, I believe is her name.
Yep.
She is doing a lot of work in the ARCA series to elevate it, because people are coming in NASCAR through her influence that she has. So
I get a YouTube ad every 5 minutes for Tony Brodinger's Raising Cane's commercial. So there's
shout out to
she's
Raising
just
Cane's.
in ARCA, right? So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. But what I want to know your thoughts on that one. You probably have a little bit more in depth of an answer for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I obviously came through the entire Road to Indy ladder, and I think they are doing much better. I know that there's maybe less coverage than you might expect, but you can watch the Indy NXT races. They do stream a lot of these events, and you've got drivers right now in Indy NXT. Like, you've got several big names. You've got young drivers that are extremely promising, drivers that we've had on this show, no big deal. I saw Jacob Abel over the weekend. Just had a beverage with him, enjoyed some chatter with him. But yeah, I do believe that the strength of the top level series will then feed into the lower level series. So I think if we get more and more viewers for IndyCar, it gives us more and more freedom to put Indy NXT on television and the other series. But I completely agree. I think all weekend you should be able to live stream all the races to watch it all. But again, this stuff costs money. It's hard. So that's my answer for it. But I think that Indy NXT is doing a way better job than I think ever before. So I think it's good.
And the drivers are feeding into it, so that's going to continue to expand. The other question I have here from Racing Radio 12, what gave you the itch, Connor, to start driving? And Chase, what got you into following racing? I can lead this one off. What got me into following racing? 1997, 5 years old, went to Talladega with my parents. Probably one of the most wildest things I've ever witnessed as a 5-year-old child. Definitely maybe not the best place to take a 5-year-old child, but glad that my parents did not think that through, because it sparked my love for racing. Obviously big 90s NASCAR guy. Love that whole era going up into the 2000s. So it was just taking that trip, seeing it in person for the first time, got home, started buying the cars, collecting, all that. That's really where it all started from. And then over the years, I did have a lull. I got really big into baseball and skateboarding, and that was my jam. And then the older I got, went back to Talladega in like 2017 and just realized, like, man, I missed this. This is the vibe. This is where it's at. And then the rest is history. So
it's an addiction. Racing's an addiction. It's a great one.
Yeah.
For me, I was the only thing I ever knew growing up. So growing up, obviously, my dad was a race car driver, Formula One, sports cars, all kinds of stuff. So, and my mom worked at a racetrack. So that was it. I was locked in right from there.
Play it simple, baby.
We appreciate the questions.
Yes.
I've got a couple more here. Now, this is interesting because I get some questions. Like, we obviously probably gain new fans as we've gone along. This is from Prime Gamer 32. Connor, have you ever competed in other motorsports aside from NASCAR and IndyCar? Yes, I've done everything. And again, people new to me probably don't even know that what I've done in IndyCar before these last couple of years. NASCAR, again, I've only done very, very little in that. But I've raced in all the Road to Indy series. I've raced in all the Road to Formula One series. I was a Formula One test driver. Did the Rolex 24 twice. Did the Sebring 12 Hours once. Did a whole season of Lamborghini Super Trofeo. We won the most. We won a couple races. I think my teammate won the championship that year. I'm not sure. I had to miss one race because I was doing an IndyCar event, I think. But won a lot of races in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. What else have I raced? I've done a lot of random sports car events. So I've pretty much done almost everything. I've raced in the Chili Bowl several times. A lot of dirt midget races, which are kind of crazy. I've retired from dirt midget racing though. I've done every single Road to Formula One series, every single Road to Indy series, and every single Road to NASCAR series, except ARCA. Technically, I haven't done ARCA, but I've done Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. So
we got to cross ARCA off the bucket list.
I don't know if I will, but we'll see.
You and Frankie
So, yes.
Muniz. Well, no, he's in Xfinity now.
He's in Xfinity, yeah. So that was a good one. I like to let people know, what's going on. Oh, this is a good one, real quick. From C to Hard, Chris to Hard, bucket list Pokemon card that we want. Now, for me, I think it's easy to go. I would like a first edition Charizard. I thought I had one in my parents' basement. We've been looking for the last 3 years. I don't know. But anything from the olden days, for me personally, there's a lot from the EX era. Now, this might be complete foreign language to a lot of people.
100%.
I want all the gold stars. I want the gold star Umbreon. I want it. A couple things like that. I want the holographic Dark Charizard as well, first edition, no big deal. Anyway, that's it. What about you, Chase? You're a big Pokemon guy too. I love Pokemon.
Yeah.
We're big Pokemon
dude. I mean,
here.
I literally love it. Myself, since my kid got back into it, it reeled me right back in, and I'm literally like competitively playing this game now. It's insane. I never thought I would be playing some anime poker, but here we are. For me, it just goes back, like you said, it goes back to the childhood days. It's an unfortunate circumstance right now. I cannot find my binder to save my life. I have that base set Charizard.
Oh, I know.
With the Shadow, and I can't find the binder to save my life. So my son is begging me to buy him like a $300 card, ungraded, because he wants that Zard. But personally, I always liked Charizard. I did have that one card, but I've always been a big Gengar guy. Love Gengar.
Good card.
Sabrina's Gengar from the Gym Heroes Gym Challenge.
Great card.
Holographic with the little stamp on the bottom. I love that set.
I have
that card?
but it's not graded very well. Yeah, I had.
Have you got your cards? Have you got your newer cards?
No, not yet. I'm going to the card shop after this. Not gonna lie, going to the card shop.
Check it out. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of thinking about. I was kind of thinking about trying to make my way up to Indiana for the race cards event with the IndyCar race cards.
Oh, next weekend, yeah.
Look,
next Sunday. Come on.
I mean, I own the market now. It's my market. I own the motorsports trading card market. So I feel like I need to be there as the president of that.
So anyway, that's a good question. All right, we get it to another one here into more of the racing stuff. Keynote Design Studio asked, how important is the relationship between driver and pit crew? Did the same guys remain on teams yearly? So I think in the IndyCar world at least, and I'm sure this happens in the NASCAR world as well, but guys and girls definitely rotate around. I literally went to the Ganassi tent to do some interviews with some of their team members with Ash Vandelay, who we did some content at Thermal together. And I noticed, first of all, there's about 2 to 3 people on each one of their cars that I've worked with before at different teams. One of the gearbox guys on Alex Pallot's car, he was at Meyer Shank last year. One of my mechanics that I worked with at Coin is on one of Alex Pallot's cars. People definitely do switch around a little bit. It's kind of it's a very small world, but people definitely do swap around. But I think when you're with that pit crew for a whole year, right, you really do become friends with those guys. I've really enjoyed working with all the crews that I've been a part of, because they become like part of your family. The crew guys themselves, I mean, they're the guys that have to get dirty in the pit lane. They got to do all the hard work that you don't want to do, and a lot of the work that you've caused for them. So it is a good relationship that you do have, and I appreciate those folks more than we can ever say. So that's basically the answer to that one. And I'll go through a couple more here before we get to our segment with Kevin. But there's a lot that we're going to save for the next show as well. But there's one person that always asks, M. Fastnelli, if he asked 4 different questions, but did I do a helmet swap with Dale Jr.? No, I would love to. And if I'm ever going to do any more NASCAR races, I will be doing some sort of NASCAR sanctioned events at some point this year. We have to figure out where and how. But I do have some support for a couple races. It looks like NASCAR Truck Series mainly. Would I ever do the Indy 500 and Coke 600 double? I have no reason to do that until I win the Indy 500. So winning the Indy 500 is the priority. No one would care about me doing the double at the moment. So I wouldn't want to do that. Den_Mac asked, any chance of seeing you back in an IndyCar this season after the Indy 500? Honestly, at this point, anything is possible. I don't have anything on the schedule. I'm trying to convince Dennis to run Nashville the last race of the season. If it's the Super Speedway package, we could run that. That will be sweet. But other than that, I don't know. Unless I'm going to be a substitute. But Callum Ilott seems to be the main substitute guy right now, which is completely fine. A couple more real quick. This is from El Jefe Cards, who I've bought some Pokemon cards from. What was the highest speed you ever hit in a race? Now, it wouldn't be in the race, but in practice at the Indy 500, 243.78 miles an hour. Technically, on our data, it was 244 miles an hour. But the official record is 243.7. But we were above 244 in the data. So 244 miles an hour, pretty fast. Chase, got another one for you real quick. Mark Run says, has Chase ever eaten a track tenderloin? Have you had a tenderloin at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway yet?
I have not.
But you need one. We're going to get you that this year.
Okay.
We're going to get you a tenderloin.
I am so ready for this year's Indy 500. Like, it's going to be insane. So now I get a tenderloin?
You get a tenderloin. It's a very famous sandwich.
I'm very excited about this tenderloin. I'm a big.
Famous.
I like me some good, smoked meat, dude. I'm gonna tell you right now. I like some grilling. Not as robotic as Mark Zuckerberg would be about smoking the meats, but anything that you can throw on the grill, I'm here for. The tenderloin sounds good. Ready for it.
All right, well, that's it for questions for now. We're going to save a lot of those. Now, again, I've got them all screenshotted. I've got them in my phone, so I'm going to have those ready for the next couple shows as well. So if you didn't hear your question answered, please don't go away because we're going to get to them. So with that, we're going to get into our roundtable discussion with Kevin Beck, my buddy, and Chase. So please enjoy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with our very famous roundtable discussion of all the important topics of motor racing. You might find them important. I certainly hope you find them important, but who knows? We've got Kevin Beck, my good friend, at Senna1 on all the internet platforms. He is back here once again, and of course, my co-host Chase Holden. Guys, welcome back. We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot of racing things that have happened. But first of all, Kevin, how you doing? What was your response to your first episode as a part of our show about a month ago?
A lot of it was, it's glad to finally hear your voice again, so that you don't do rant anymore, you don't do a podcast anymore. And then there was other people like, well, why are you on a racing podcast? You don't even race cars. And my response was, did you ever hear of Mike and the Mad Dog? They never played baseball before or basketball. They talk about sports all the time.
That's a good point.
It's two legends of the game.
Yeah.
And the New York radio scene.
And most athletes hate talking about their sport, unless they're getting paid to do it, like Shaq, right? They'll talk about basketball all day for the amount of money he's making. But at the end of the day,
Tony Romo, yeah.
The fans want to talk about things like this.
Absolutely.
The little nuances, yes. But yes, it was nice to be back. I did get good positive feedback. It was great. It was nice to be back on again. It was nice to just, have to voice my opinion somewhere other than Twitter.
Absolutely. We're talking racing. So Chase, I'm excited to get into some stuff this week. I want to lay out a few topics for all of us to discuss. Chase, obviously, I want your input on some of this stuff as well, because again, some of it might be new to you, right? Like we're going to talk a little bit about there's still a bit of a post-mortem of the Thermal Club. I want to hear what Kevin's perspective was, because again, this is someone who is a motor racing fan, is paying more and more attention to IndyCar over the last couple of years too. And so what do we now feel? Because again, the stuff kept coming in, and some of the clips that we put out of this show were maybe not as well responded to as I would have hoped. I didn't necessarily like a couple of the clips because again, people only watch clips. They don't like to listen to the show. And I saw that happen with Denny Hamlin today too. He was responding to idiots on Twitter who were just responding to a clip, taking something completely out of context. Obviously, they didn't listen to the show. But there was a lot of postmortem, a lot of interesting comments, people that still disagree with me, people that didn't. But I want to know now, we've got a week off. We had a weekend off. But we want to talk about what that looks like. We want to talk a little bit about the Long Beach Grand Prix getting bought by Jerry Forsythe. I think that's a huge positive move for IndyCar, for us as a series, and a power move from one of our legends, our names, that is a legendary name, and someone who honestly invested a lot of money into my career, Jerry Forsythe. And then also, Liberty buying MotoGP, I think is a big, interesting thing to talk about in general. So, let's get into the post-mortem a little bit. Kevin, I want to start with you because Chase and I got to talk a little bit about it last week. But when you watch the Thermal Club, right, and you see it, the main question I kind of want to pose to everyone is like, a lot of talk about it, right? They say any publicity is good publicity sometimes, and I thought there was more internet chatter about IndyCar than ever, which, again, a lot of it was completely ridiculous and completely unwarranted, but a lot of fans cared about it. A lot of people cared about it. So do you think this is something that we hope to be able to try in the future? Is this something that we shouldn't be afraid of still to try in the future? Let's not get our feelings hurt, right? Is it something like that? What did you think of it?
I thought the format was interesting. When I first turned it on, I was like, why is Colton Herter just sitting in the back? And then once they explained to you why he was doing it, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then it was more, I don't like shitting on IndyCar, but if you've ever been to a place where they do like timeshares and you have to watch a video to get a free vacation, that's what I felt like I was watching with a race going on. And I was kind of just like...
A timeshare video.
I was like, this is great, but like, how much more of this video I have to watch so I can watch this race? Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, look at these.
That's a hilarious comparison.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like, they have a shower and like 5 baths and 6 bedrooms and 3 garages.
Great property.
Cool. I was like, it looks nice. Now, I also understand why they did it, right? Because they understand that Formula One's fan base is uber wealthy. So if it makes them like it a little bit, maybe they'll tell their friends and their other friends, oh, let's go to a race. And I understand what the reach is for it. I don't mind the pay on it because I do know some IndyCar racers, and I know that the pay isn't as great as everybody thinks it is.
Yeah.
So, you know what? For a guy getting paid like, 6 figures for one race, I'm all for it.
Yep.
I'm all for the drivers making more money. I will never be against it. Do I think that some fans overreacted? Yeah, but you know what? What would you rather them do? Go take IndyCar back to Japan again, and then you're not going to see a race at all?
I mean, we definitely need to go there as long as it's on television. Right. I mean, it would be tough maybe at like 1 a.m, but I think we need to go there, yes. But I see what you mean.
I thought it was odd, the setup for it. I feel like if they're going to do it again, they should maybe do like, almost have it like, the first X amount of races in the season, if you in the top 15, then you get invited to this $1 million race.
That's interesting,
and just have 15 guys just go at it. Cut the field in half. If you're not in the top half of the field, you don't get invited to the thermal race, and then there you go. It's like doesn't NBA do something like that? They do something like there was the
in-season tournament they did this year, which was kind of wild. Yeah. No, that's actually a really interesting thought. I hadn't thought about that.
So you do that.
Make it look like, make it something to fight for the middle of the season. I had never thought until this moment that, like, you can do it in the season. I think for sure season opener is a great way to do it, right? Because it gets everyone warmed up. But, like, that is kind of an interesting – because, like, this summer, right, we had the Olympic break. So there's, like, there's going to be some time off for the Olympic break. Right. Now, again, we can't do it because NBC is going to be busy then. But, if we spread out our season more, sadly our season is kind of condensed right now and there's not enough races. But yeah, that's an interesting idea. Interesting thought for sure.
I mean, NASCAR does there was races in a race, right?
Yeah.
Well, they had the All-Star race and that's that was moved to the beginning of the year, which I think was good. I think that was a good thing. But they used to have Chase. When wasn't the All-Star race in the middle of the season or something like that at one point?
Yeah, you would have your All-Star race in the middle of the season. And that was North Wilkesboro last year that they would have it.
And I don't think that was a bad thing.
No. It gives you something. It's kind of like the lull, right? Like, you got to have your lull. But I like what Kevin's saying, too, because, like, it creates this exclusivity. And it's just something to march towards throughout this very spread out long IndyCar season. So it's like having two kind of, not going to say championships, but it's like you have like a points race like the in-season tournament. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I definitely don't mind it. It was just something that was different. And again, I've read so many of the comments. I've read so many of the people. Just because, I've actually just asked questions too. We've even had YouTube comments, people that are watching the episodes on YouTube saying, hey, like, this is what we thought. And right now, a lot of stuff. And again, that's great. I think a lot of people do read that stuff. But, no one is ever going to do an event where it checks all the boxes. Everyone is going to have a problem with something at all times, which we have to remember. But we had a race. It was something we can work on. And like Kevin, when you watch the end of it, right, the end of that race, I thought there was some exciting parts to it. I thought there was some good racing.
Yeah.
And hearing your raw opinion on it, I mean, did you think, hey, you know what? Yeah, the winner won by a little bit, but there was something there that you might not have thought was coming after the first half of the race.
Yeah, the first half of the race was a little bit rough to get through. And I said, I'll invest my time in it. I'll just do it. And in the end, I was like, okay, the payoff wasn't horrible. Better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be, a more a tactical thing than it turned out to be. It was turned into a real race. I was like, okay, it wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible. And then I went on Twitter and I was like, Jesus, these people really hated this thing.
Roast.
I know. Wow.
Unreal.
But I mean, the studying of the internet is wild. And I do believe that a lot of chatter about it does mean that people care. And I appreciate those people that care, because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, we only say this because we love it. And I still, there is a little bit of that, but there is also still some like, all right, well, like there's got to be, like I didn't see as many positive responses than all of a sudden in chatter when like, hey, you had a great IndyCar mogul buying Long Beach to take it away from NASCAR. Like, why isn't everyone like, that's our series, like those are our guys, like, yeah, that's awesome, you know what I mean? That's kind of what I dislike, is like that kind of I guess separation of support and just hate. But again,
laws of society,
yeah, exactly, yeah. Right,
yeah.
But I guess we can move into that, because Thermal, did you have anything else, Kevin, you think from Thermal that was good, or should we move on to the Long Beach?
I think if we go back and they do the in-season tournament thing, it makes sense. If they are allowed to get more fans in, like they said they were later on, they are able to get more fans in, they get better permits, whatever it can be, make it a real race, then it's fine. I think it's good.
And we got to fix the podium. Did you see the podium?
No, I did not see the podium.
Okay, it's bad. We got to fix that.
It was a box that was carved up by a guy named Chet from a trailer park. That's what it was.
There's a couple questions we're going to get to there that we get to in this episode. People say, like, Connor, what would you do if you were handed the keys to the Penske Entertainment Kingdom for one day and try to fix IndyCar? I was like, the podiums. That's what we're going to fix right out the gate. We're going to make the podiums. If you're on the podium in IndyCar, it's going to be awesome. There's going to be fire and lights, flags up there that are, I mean, it's huge bottles of champagne, nice trophies. You got to make it look cool. So anyway, I just was curious to see if you had seen any photos.
I did not see I will look at it afterwards, though.
Yeah, you should. You got to check it out, and you'll be like, "Oh, yikes!" Okay. So we had another big story that happened this week. And Chase, I know this is going to be a new name to you, but Jerry Forsyth. So Jerry Forsyth was a team owner when I was growing up. Essentially, he was actually my first investor in my racing career. I signed a 10-year contract with Jerry Forsyth when I was 16.
Wow.
He was going to fund my racing, pay for it all. I would obviously have to then pay for it back. He could exit it at any time if he wanted. And so he was kind of how I got from the Skip Barber National Series through Pro Mazda a little bit. Now, again, thankfully, I had actually won all those championships, so I kind of self-funded myself. But he was able to help pay for the year of 2010 when I didn't have the scholarship from 2009. So Jerry was a huge part of my career. And then there was a big story about Long Beach might be getting bought, like a majority stake of the event, by NASCAR. Now, there was a lot of fire on the internet about that too. Like, we cannot have this happen. Like, this is crazy. And I don't know how it all worked, but then all of a sudden they were like, nah, Jerry Forsyth's going to buy it. And then his quote was like incredible. It was like, this is an IndyCar race. Like, that's got to be a power move, right? Like, if you see some business trying to come in and swipe up everything, like Chase, that's got to look, now again, it's got to look good for someone who's like, hey, all right, we can get behind this. This is something that we are proud of. This is a family member, an IndyCar family member, essentially a member of the squad who has just basically gone and spent whatever money necessary to keep a household event a household event.
Yeah, this is good. This is the kind of things that need to start happening. So we're on good pace right now, okay? Jerry Forsyth, so yes, maybe I don't know a ton about the history of all this stuff, but I have looked into this story. And I think that the main takeaway from this is like, it's the beginning. You see what NASCAR did throughout time. You know, there's SMI owns a majority of tracks, then NASCAR owns a majority of tracks that are pretty much very widespread. I mean, IndyCar was having to go to NASCAR and go to SMI particularly, but having to go there, chat with them. You don't have many tracks that are kind of like self-owned. I think Worldwide Technology, shout out to them peoples.
Great place. Yeah.
Yes, they're one of the only like tracks out there that I really can think of that is self-owned. So now that this has happened, you know, it's just kind of like leading by example, and that's what Jerry's done here. So Long Beach, I did see a cool clip of it yesterday. Looked like an oval, very fast. Was not an oval, was a road. But I did enjoy the fact that it is something to celebrate. But like you said before, it's people tend to talk way more about the bad news than they do the good news, and that's just kind of one of those laws of society. It's in a lot of different areas. So I wouldn't take it too personally because, Jerry did the work for us. And now, now we get to kind of have our own, little movement over here in the IndyCar world of like how things go down at Long Beach. There's a lot of other events that happen around that. I know like Formula Drift. I got a good buddy, Rome CP. That runs over there, and I know
it's a great weekend. Incredible weekend.
They're going to be running. They're going to be ripping. I think is it before or after?
Yeah, they're before. I think they're like on the Thursday night or something like that.
Yeah,
Formula Drift is. Yeah.
So that's more revenue now coming in for old Jerry, and then that's just more exclusivity for IndyCar. So that's good stuff.
Now, Kevin, did you you're a prominent businessman, I assume? No, I know.
Hope so.
But you do you remember Forsyth at all from back in the day, like in the Champ
Car
days?
I remember the Champ Car days. Is like it was like
the Index
a
Forsyth,
J and
the
an
blue
F,
and white
like
cars.
this, like J like this, and an F fell off to the top of the J. Yeah, I think that was what it was.
Well, he was Forsyth Racing, so he was Index, like it was blue and white. He was the player specials.
Yeah, he was
every
Paul Tracy's car, right?
Paul Tracy did drive for him.
Right.
Yep.
That was a cool car I think he had back then, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So this has to be something that I think I get very motivated by this. Like I'm immediately like, that's our guy. You know what I mean? Like this is sweet. But like from an outsider looking in, do you think this is a power move from someone who supports IndyCar finally? Like it's obviously we got Penske that bought the series. That's amazing. But this is an in-house name that is supporting the business essentially.
So he went out and he bought Long Beach, correct? Like he
basically bought the majority stake, I believe.
The remaining 50%.
In the event. Or how? What was the percent?
The remaining 50%, I believe.
Yeah,
50%,
so it's 50-50. Yeah.
So obviously there's land involved, like the pits and whatnot are like it's like its own structure, or is it not that same structure?
I actually don't know. I think it's just the event itself, because obviously it's on the streets, right? So I don't think they own the roads, but
Jerry Forth's Road. That's what it should be called.
Yeah, there we go. Right, exactly. So I mean, at the end of the day, it probably is a very good move for him because now he has more say in like support races, right? I mean, that's the beauty of IndyCar, right? There's a ton of support races.
Oh yeah, I think he'll be slightly more hands off, but he's got. Basically, it just means that no one else can have it. That's how I would see it. It's like he came in because he's like, I don't want anyone else to have it, right? Because we can't have that getting taken over by NASCAR. Yeah. So because they've got a great team that run it over there already, but I think there was obviously 50% of it for sale for some reason. I actually don't really know why, and I probably should have done research on that. But doesn't matter. He basically took it over so he could basically just call it an IndyCar event. Or the IndyCar event's not going to go away. Because IMSA races there with us as well with IndyCar. Mm-hmm. And the only annoying part is Indy Lights doesn't race there anymore, which is kind of strange. I think we should definitely get that back. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a weird one. There's my Indy Lights trophy right above my shoulder from Long Beach. So I have I enjoy that place. I enjoy the history there. So I think that's how it's kind of played out to look.
I mean, yeah, so he definitely bought it then to just keep it IndyCar based and not NASCAR based. He probably figures if NASCAR has one race here and it does better than IndyCar did, they're going to say, well, just get rid of IndyCar and just do NASCAR instead. Smart move.
Exactly.
Yeah, keep the vibe alive. I mean, it's been going on since, 84, I believe?
Yeah.
Long time. Yeah. So, my dad raced in the Long Beach Formula One race.
Yeah, that's huge. Wow.
Yeah. And so it's been a long time since the Long Beach Grand Prix has been around.
So I'll say this, like you were talking about with Indy Next, man. I think that's like the next logical step, going into next year. Hey, let's throw this back in here now. You have a little bit more control with Jerry Forsyth kind of doing these things. And so that's where we'll just kind of have to see where it goes. I think the next logical move, let's buy an oval. What oval are we buying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's where that's the next move. But we can have a street and an oval. Yeah, we're going to be on a really good trajectory here. It's exponential growth.
Chase, I have a question. So are NASCAR fans of the road races as much as they are the ovals and their short track stuff? How does COTA do, attendance-wise?
So COTA does really well. I mean, attendance-wise, every race pretty much does great. Like you have
except for Richmond over the weekend. That was tough. Apparently, that was
Easter.
Not a great crowd.
It's Easter, in the Bible Belt. Like you're south of Mason-Dixon.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like I don't know. I don't get the vibe of that. I went to the Bristol race 2 years in a row during the Easter weekend, and I mean, it was not as packed of a stadium. I get it's mainly a TV race. It's something to watch at home, and I mean, they did a decent job, but. Yeah, I'll say this much about it. Like, you definitely have your fans of NASCAR that are huge into road course racing. Like, and I'm one of them. I've become a big fan of road course racing. Love COTA, love Watkins Glen, Sonoma, big history there for the NASCAR series. So I would just say that what I've seen from going to these races, these road course races that we've had, is like, you have a lot of people that are like, they grew up with NASCAR and they're like bringing like, their business, the coworkers, or they're bringing the friends that don't really know much about it, or maybe like just kind of got into it, saw it on social media. And then you just have a bunch of random locals that will pop up too. So it's a very diverse crowd. You definitely have your hardcore fans there, but then you also just have the people that are there for it to kind of look at it as an event. And I think that kind of goes for a lot of different races out there. So you definitely have to keep that event structure, and the event structure definitely helps like with the attendance for the road course races. Yeah. But there's so much that goes on over a weekend in NASCAR. There's so many people that go to these races, not even for the race, just to party over a weekend. So It's just like it's just a big party. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to Talladega. It's like that too. And IndyCar could be that way as well, and I know the Indy 500 is obviously that way. But the more event-focused things that we do, like all you have to do, you want the playbook, go to the 90s, look at what NASCAR did in the 90s and how they kind of like did everything, and the drivers were involved.
Reignited the series, essentially took over.
Yeah, the drivers were involved, and so this is good to see a driver or a former team owner getting involved. The more that we have of that, that's going to lead to the success. Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, they did that in NASCAR. Jerry Forsythe now coming in IndyCar to kickstart the party. This just needs to be one of those moments where everybody wakes up and says, okay, how can I join in? How can I help? What can I do to invest in my sport?
Because Long Beach as well, Long Beach is I would say to the Indy 500, it's probably the next largest attended event on the weekend. It is without a doubt one of those like household name events. It's one of those things that I don't understand why more people don't watch it on TV, because the crowd, if you see the crowd there every year, it's incredible. Like the crowd is packed every day of the week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's full. And the event does a great job. And I don't see that. I honestly think if for some reason NASCAR would have bought it, if for some reason they would have put a NASCAR race there, I think it ruins the legacy of the Long Beach Grand Prix. And I don't think it probably does that well there. I don't know. I just don't think, it just doesn't work. It's like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, if for some reason that got bought by NASCAR, you'd be like, well, that's never going to happen.
RIP.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah,
that just doesn't work with how human life works. So I think the Long Beach Grand Prix is so well attended. It's such a great event. It's a household event for us. It felt good for me to see. And as someone who knows Jerry Forsythe as well, I mean, it's just great. So Kevin, you need to go to that one too. That's a good one.
I think it's at the end of the year though, right? Is that when it is?
No, it's next. It's in 2 weeks.
We should go, Kevin. We should get a plane ticket. We should both go. We should be there.
It was at the end of the year, the COVID year.
Right.
Yeah. So the COVID, when they rearranged the schedule and no one could be in California, they put it at the end of the year. So that was when it was at the end of the year, because I remember that. That was last race.
I'm just afraid it's gonna be a bunch of TikTokers.
There are a lot of TikTokers there, but they bring them out. Hey, we got to get those people out there. We got to get the influencers out there.
Chase now just walk around saying, how many times have you heard, look at that Formula One car?
Oh, we can't do it.
Man,
and we got to control our influencers.
We
got to enrich their minds with the IndyCar stuff. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Now, actually, that brings up an interesting question, because there was a post that went around. Some of the influencers that came out to the thermal race, there were some NASCARs in the pit lane, right? And one of the guys had taken pictures with his boys in front of all the NASCARs instead of IndyCars at an IndyCar event, right? Do we police this? Do we need to we need to make sure, like, if you're the content team, like, hey, we got to make sure that everyone knows what an IndyCar is, and we got to make sure that they take pictures in front of the right areas. Kevin, like, what's your director of content saying for that?
You know what I say? This is what I say. I say I'm from a background where I dealt with a lot of influencers before, right? And when it first started coming out, like, people would give you things for free. They would educate you on what you're going to go get involved with, right?
Yes.
So I think it's every motorsport, every sports team, everything. If you're going to give somebody the utmost exclusive into anything, you say to them, hey, come down at 1 o'clock. We're going to, take you guys around, blah, blah, blah. And you give them like a person with them who explains everything to them. So if I was IndyCar and I got to that track and I saw NASCAR's there, I'd say, get these cars out of here.
Yeah.
No, put them in a garage somewhere. Why are they out here? This is an IndyCar event. It's not a NASCAR event. I don't want to see these cars anywhere. Get them out.
I agree.
That's on IndyCar.
Small details too, right? It's small details because it ends.
What do you think? What do you think Liberty Media would do if there was an IndyCar out there in a Formula One race? They would be like, burn it, get rid of it. Why is it here? In order to put it there, fire them. Who put that there and fire them? IndyCar, it's just like, it's no big deal. Oh, okay. And then the biggest influencer goes next to it and takes a photo, and now no one knows that they're at an IndyCar race. They don't see any there's nothing on it.
I could just see that.
They're wearing suits. Now, again, this isn't. I mean, you're right. I still don't think it's IndyCar's fault because the track itself, like the cars were all owned by people that are there, right? Mm-hmm. And you hate to see this.
Like some rich guy have like a NASCAR?
Oh yeah, so all these guys buy a bunch of they're basically older Hendrick Cup cars, and they converted them into time attack cars, and they're all there. They went and had a race. Like Casey Mears was doing a race. Andrews Crone, guy who I used to race with way back in the day, he was in. They offered me a seat, and I said absolutely not. I'm going to be doing my content job. I'm not jumping in anything that I don't
know
about
yet. Kevin, this is just a country club for racing. Like it's a country club for race fans. That's what it is. They like you got a pair of golf clubs, they got a race car. Right.
But it was just it was very sad. You're very right. Like it should not happen, but it's just bad placement, right? There's 2 pit lanes. IndyCar's using one of them. All of them are set up there. There's another one on the other side because obviously the track normally is set up into 2 different tracks, so you can do 2 different track days or whatever. And the 2-seaters, to try to make it efficiently, they're not going to go into pit lane because then you get less of the track to experience the ride. And it just happened to be right there. And I do hate it for IndyCar, but it's just one of those things that all of those small details sometimes count because it's like, oh shoot, now it's kind of like we just gave people ammo to be mad at, and it's silly. That's not going to make people think that IndyCar is NASCAR, but that common misconception is a big problem for us because everyone, the first thing they ask you is like, do you race NASCAR? Well, no, we race IndyCar. They're like, oh, okay, what's the difference? It's like, well, very big differences. Complete different shapes, but the public is more well known on the NASCAR. The public knows what a NASCAR looks like. You know what I mean? Our NASCAR Cup Series car. A stock car, excuse me. People get mad if you say it's a NASCAR. It's a stock car, but yes.
I love making people mad. I always say it's a NASCAR.
I know. It's a stock car, people. But we know.
If half these influencers who are going there, like, you know what? Even if they have 1 million followers, probably 1% of them are probably race fans. And the other 99% are never going to watch and never going to watch motorsports ever. That's what they have to understand. They have to understand that it makes more sense going for a guy who has 60,000 followers that have race fans there. That has a segmented market that is like, hey, this guy's got 60,000 followers that love racing. So if I could get 10% of them to go to a race, it makes more sense to me than try to get 0.001% of a guy who's got 1 million followers that doesn't care about a race. Because you want a race fan who's going to keep going to races, right? You don't want a model of like a wedding.
I actually disagree. I think we have people that already go to the races. We need them to watch on TV. The attendance right now, I don't care if there's no one at the race. As long as there's 4 million people watching on TV, we're all getting paid. That's honest. That's the honest truth. We have great attendance, except for a couple oval races. But attendance wise, I think that is not as big of an issue as getting people to watch on TV.
So you're saying you rather get viewership. So the only way to really raise viewership is to
or just awareness.
Awareness.
People being aware.
So awareness of viewership. So the only thing that would actually help IndyCar would be like the Super Bowl model, right? Most people watch the Super Bowl just to see the halftime show. So like IndyCar should just, instead of marketing dollars, instead of whatever they're going to use it for, get acts to go there. Like why doesn't every IndyCar race have like a snake pit?
That's a great point.
Why does every race not have it? Why is there not a race and then a festival at the end, or a race on a Saturday? You race on a Sunday and have a festival at the end of it. Like
you think that dilutes it? Like Chase said, that's in it? Because again, the race should be the main event, and it is. Like even the snake pit, you've got 330,000 people in the seats. You've got 30,000 people in the snake pit.
But you also have to understand is that you have to also educate these people. So if they're never ever going to go to a race ever, they're never going to set foot in this place. Now they're going to see like a country singer that starts at 2:00. They're going to get there at 11:00. They'll watch the race and go, wow, that was really a lot of fun. Because like you explained to me what was going on. I kind of like this. Like my wife doesn't like car racing. She watches it all the time because I explain it to her. But she wasn't with me and she dated a guy who golfed. She'd probably become a golf fan because that's what the person liked.
That's
but
what's
if you're
on
not
the TV.
Introduced to something, if there's nothing to suck you into it, it's like
it's true.
You can't just think that you're going to get influencers go there and influence you to buy anything. First of all, that doesn't work anymore. And if you're going to watch it at home, then like you have to think of some ploy. There has to be some marketing behind it where it's like it's interactive for the person watching it at home. For like whatever it can be. Like I mean,
is it star power? Like, do you need more star power? You're like, I'm going to watch these superstars.
It's an element.
Is it something like that?
That's
definitely an element.
Right? But look, not for nothing, a lot of my friends who watch sports, like religiously watch sports, it's the gambling.
That's a
they
big
could live
part.
bet. They could live bet a baseball game. You could live bet a basketball game. Like IndyCar, you pick your winner, you're done. Right? It would have to be IndyCar going to these people, these lines makers, and saying, "Hey, we're going to give you all the data you want for every race that's ever been raced," and you could see what happens when the guy goes from 8th place to 3rd place, and there's 80 laps left. This is what the live odds will be. You should be able to change the odds over and over again. Okay,
one driver over another driver, like matchups. We need all that stuff.
You preaching?
I completely agree.
You preaching, Kevin? Look, as a guy that started in I started in 2019 doing NASCAR betting, NASCAR sports betting. That was my whole bag, right? There was not really a scene there at all. There was nothing happening there. Now you look at everything NASCAR is doing with gambling, all of the different odds. We're lucky to get odds, and I can say this. I'm not an IndyCar driver, okay? We're lucky to have odds up for IndyCar by a Friday, right before practice, and then they're up for 5 minutes, and then they're gone. And then you'll get them back maybe on a Saturday after they've finished all the other sports. Definitely need a way.
And I assume it's
bigger.
not on all sports books, right? Like I assume it's not. It's probably not on all the sports books.
No, it's not. I mean, it's
you have to find some like backyard guy who will take your money and like if you.
I mean, like
no,
pay
not
like
even
everything.
that. There's not enough data out there. That's the problem. Is like you've got the Indy 500. That's the big one. But then like the week to week stuff, all we've got is outrights. Because I have been waiting for more selection with IndyCar betting, and that is what is going to help elevate IndyCar.
I agree.
Because look what it did for NASCAR over the last 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, even before sports gambling was legal, right? What are you watching The Sopranos? Well, they got a sports gambling ring that people are watching these sports because they're betting on, like, again, you can have all kinds of opinions on sports gambling. Like, people have problems with it, and that's a shame. But like, it is a very popular thing to do right now. Vegas is obviously winning constantly. Mm-hmm. Like, FanDuel. I use the FanDuel app. It's great. I enjoy watching sports and be like, hey, this is kind of fun. Did I put a future on the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers and the New York Yankees and potentially a bunch of the San Diego Padres? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
But
Baseball's
that's only
back.
because it's hilarious. You know what I mean? I'm a big futures guy. I took the Pacers before the season started at like plus 26,000. And now I'm like, I love my Pacers.
And you're watching that game.
And I'm
watching your
I'm
game.
locked in.
All the same thing fantasy football did for football.
I love fantasy football. Yeah, you watch your guys play. You're like, hey, those
exactly.
Got to get at least 10 more catches.
You'll watch Red Zone for a whole Sunday during football season because you know that never existed before fantasy football. You had your team.
Completely agree.
So it's the same kind of jazz. Look, at the end of the day, what it is, people like ways to make money. You're giving people a way to make money off of something that they enjoy. They're always going to flock to that. There's no getting rid of it. So have whatever opinion you want on it. People like money.
Or they're like, who is this guy who's plus 800? I like those. Maybe I'm going to learn about this guy. I don't know.
Like, and some people who watch the watch the Indy 500 aren't even like race fans. They're watching it just because it's on TV and it's cool for them to watch it. So like,
it's like a tradition. That's
right.
like a Memorial Day
like,
weekend
check
type
this
tradition.
Out, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's like you might have somebody on there who's like, I'm gonna bet there's gonna be 10. I'm thinking the over on 10 yellows during the race.
That's a good creative idea. Yeah.
I mean, these are things that can happen.
Pit crews, top 10, top 5s, restarts,
matchups,
anything. How fast someone takes in a pit. Matchups would be huge. Matchups are huge. You can parlay them.
I do F1 matchups all day.
It's
there you go.
It's at the end of the day, like I said, it's just IndyCar. They had the Caesars Sportsbook building at IMS for a while, which I thought was amazing. I still have this cup from IMS. Great chalice. Love my Caesars
chalice right there.
I'm just saying, whatever it's going to take, I'm here. I'm ready to help. That's all I'm saying. I want to see a bigger gambling presence in IndyCar. It's going to take it. It's just another vehicle to go to the moon with. That's all.
I obviously cannot be part of any of this.
No,
you guys
can't.
Do your thing.
No, you can't.
I do not claim to be part of any of this.
You're out.
I'm not, but I agree with the topic. I completely agree with the topic, and I think many other drivers would as well.
Yeah.
But that was good to talk about, honestly. There's a lot there that I think people will have some opinions on, but that's what we need to have. So this last topic that I want to get to with all three of us, and I know you'll know more about this, Kevin, because you know a lot about F1. But Liberty bought MotoGP. Now, Chase, have you ever watched a MotoGP event?
I've played it at a Chuck E. Cheese with my child.
There you go.
On a video game.
That's a great game.
I played the MotoGP original Xbox game back in the day.
Nice.
MotoGP 2, I think as well, the second game. Those games were electric. And I got to ride on a 2-seat MotoGP bike. But for me, I'm not a two-wheel guy. For me, it's not. I think those guys are complete psychopaths.
Yeah, correct.
Incredible athletes and just completely bonkers. But a lot of people like that, especially in Europe. It's like, a big thing all around the world. I would say maybe less so here in America, obviously. But Liberty bought MotoGP for $4 billion, and we have a NASCAR connection to the MotoGP world because Justin Marks, Trackhouse, now has a MotoGP team. So Justin clearly must have saw something going on. Justin Marks, smart guy, big brain in Justin Marks. He got in on the NASCAR charter system. He got in on the MotoGP series before it got bought by Liberty. What does that say? Is there about to be some sort of one make owner of all of motor racing? Are they going to try to buy NASCAR next? Are they going to try to buy IndyCar next? Like, it's kind of interesting. Now I feel like you've got world motorsport versus North American motorsport now. Liberty has taken over world championships of MotoGP and F1, and now you've got NASCAR and IndyCar that are, just North American. Kevin, what does that look like to you? I don't know. That's kind of an interesting way to look at it.
I think Liberty Media wants to get rid of the FIA.
That too.
I think you have an instance like Colton Herta, right? He didn't get a super license, correct? He just missed
crazy,
it, right? So if there was no FIA, Liberty Media could just say, obviously this kid knows what he's doing, put him in the car and see what happens.
Yeah.
So if they took over enough series, they could just be like, well, we don't need you anymore. We're going to do what we want to do. Like, we don't care. It's not our problem. But what I also like Liberty Media doing MotoGP for is because I feel like only probably the top 5% of motorsport fans actually watch MotoGP.
For sure.
Because it's such a different sport.
It's a niche crowd.
Unless you're a motorcyclist, you watch it. But if you're not, it's a very hard thing to watch and get into. I think that Liberty Media does like the sport because it's very fast and the crashes are pretty wild.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Netflix would have like a wet dream over having a show about that. I mean, they would just love it. They would love it. I mean, how could you not? I mean, it's Formula One on crack, really.
Yeah.
And the guys that are there literally don't give a shit. Like, they don't care.
Oh, yeah.
They're just like, I don't care. Like, they're not out here being like, oh, you got to save the bumblebees. Oh, there's kids starving. They don't care. I mean, Valentini Rossi, didn't he hit a pigeon in his helmet? And the next race he had a pigeon painted on his helmet splattered? It's hilarious. These guys don't care. They just go out
Ross,
there.
He's got that dog in him. Yeah,
They just
part of the
go
dog.
out there, man, and they just kill it. And I think that I think if the American public knew about it, they'd be like, "This is crazy. This is like Mad Max. This is not normal. This is absolutely insane." So I think Liberty Media is doing it based upon the fact that they're probably going to do a huge media push for it on top of it. They're not just going to be like, "What's this buy? Keep it there." They're going to say, "Hey, let's try to bring some races here. Let's try to make some fans here." And
next up's the TV deal, right? Next up, we're going to see MotoGP on ESPN.
Not even like a TV deal, but think about it. The one problem everybody had with the Las Vegas Grand Prix was there was no support races.
Oh, man. You're talking a Las Vegas.
You put MotoGP in Las Vegas? Whew.
Now we talking.
Man, that's a big event.
I've never seen a human body hit a wall doing 180, but I'm pretty sure Liberty Media is probably up to that one.
Yeah, no, that makes the most sense to me. Like out of everything, you treat MotoGP like the Xfinity Series to NASCAR. Why not? Go out there, get wild.
That is actually
with
an
it.
interesting concept. Yeah,
yeah. And we're gonna start seeing a lot more of that now. I mean, guys, we're approaching some really crazy times in the world. Like we're alive right now in a time where technology is changing rapidly. The world's gonna look completely different within 3 years.
Well, according to TikTok, the eclipse in 7 days and the world's over. So
according to the National Enquirer at the local Winn-Dixie grocery store in 1999, we were already supposed to be dead.
I know.
So,
weren't Jehovah's Witnesses supposed to be dead? Are we supposed to be dead also?
For everyone's, I think you go in the comments and everyone's like, "Well, I've been hearing this since the 1980s."
Yeah. Yeah, it's
anyway,
real.
I think we're going to be fine because I'm going to be at IMS watching the eclipse, so it's got to be great.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue, Chase.
But no, all I'm saying is it's exactly what Kevin's saying. It's like the show, right? He said it's F1 on crack. I mean, I was literally at a gas station, grabbing a water, and the woman saw my shirt and she was like, "I'm gonna be honest, I only watch racing for the wrecks." Just straight up, and I'm just like. I can't lie. In the South, people don't want to admit it, but that's why they watch it. It really is. It's danger. It's people doing things, putting their life on the line. And I feel like out of all of them right now, IndyCar has got the best group of drivers that are just out there just rocking and rolling with it. They're going fast as hell. The Indy 500, great event, everything else like that, fantastic. The fastest you're going to see people go on an oval.
Best event in the world.
Yeah, it is. It's just bring a little bit more of the drama, bring a little bit more of maybe some rivalries, have somebody just everybody's really nice. Everybody's overly nice.
I know.
Now.
I completely
agree. And that's got to go.
Yeah.
You got to get your backbone strong. Okay, somebody's got to get the backbone strong.
What was the most viral clip from Richmond over the weekend? Joey Gase throwing his rear bumper at another car.
People like controversy,
but a NASCAR driver.
I did.
Yeah, you saw the clip. Yeah, he ripped the rear bumper off his car. I like Joey Gase. I drove for him in the Xfinity Series. Threw his bumper at another driver.
Passion.
Guess what? That's all over the internet.
Passion.
It works. I'm sorry, but you could have all your opinions about that. Oh, that's silly. It works.
Yeah.
It's all over the whole internet. Everyone sees it, and you're like, I got to watch a NASCAR race. That looks kind of cool. That's hilarious.
Yeah. People like that raw stuff, dude. People want that raw stuff.
You mentioned the danger thing too, right?
Yeah.
Why did I watch the X Games? Because the X Games was insane. People were doing double backflips on motorcycles. I was never going to do that, right?
Yeah.
And it was the craziest thing ever when you watch motocross freestyle and all these absurd skateboarders doing 900s because you're like, shoot, if that guy goes down, that's going to hurt. You know what I mean? That's people watch things because it's so unattainable to do for themselves. Yeah. They're like, that's crazy that they're doing this. And I just don't think that again, Liberty maybe is completely locking in on that because they're like, we've created this thing in Formula One that only 20 drivers are capable of doing in the world, they say, right? And it's very exclusive. MotoGP, also some of the craziest stuff you will ever see that probably this entire continent has not really witnessed much of. You know what I mean? And the bikes do look freaking sweet. I'm not going to lie. I had a motorcycle for a little bit. I did.
That's right.
I got a free one.
I forget that.
I had
a crotch rocket? You had one?
I had a crotch rocket. Yeah, it was sweet. I'm not going to lie. It was sick. I thought I was going to die on it, though. So I sold it. I was like, there's no way I need this in my life. I'm not a two-wheel guy. Travis Pastrana's been trying to teach me how to race dirt bikes a little bit better. but I'm just not a two-wheel guy. It's just not my thing. But it's crazy. So Liberty's gone for F1. Well, that's kind of crazy. I mean, it's maybe a little bit more drama, and they've made a reality show out of it. But now they've got MotoGP, which is also crazy. You got to make that. I completely agree that our sport has a lot of crazy to it that you got to embellish. You got to just put it out there.
Dial it up.
And maybe Liberty's smart. That group is smart. I think that they're doing that, and we need to push that hard for IndyCar. Like, we got to get angry people. We got to get people that are willing to, be just different, just something. Because even F1 drivers are cursing at each other on the radios. You know what I mean? Like, that's better than even what we have on IndyCar right now sometimes. You know what I mean?
No, 100%.
Yeah, I feel like
it's all good things.
Lot of, when I used to listen to the radios on the IndyCar app, there was not a whole lot of like yelling, like anger. Well, I also listen to you. You were just like, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel good. It feels like this isn't right. This isn't right.
Because something was broken or something was happening.
This car really is pretty bad. This car is not very good today.
It wasn't most of the time. Yeah.
But I feel like, those are the things. So for instance, for me, being a Formula One fan, I have the F1 TV app. So what I do is I watch the races, and then when there's an accident, I go to the guy's car, I rewind it, and I get to listen before the accident. And then afterwards, and they're like, "Oh, you okay?" He's like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Oh, okay, he's alive. That's good."
There you go.
Also want to see the perspective of that crash, right?
Yes.
So I'm not saying that IndyCar will have a market to sell the kind of feeds that F1 does. It's a different beast in a way.
Yeah.
But I feel
on the IndyCar app, you can watch the onboard cameras, right?
You can watch them now,
right?
Yes.
But the interactive selection, like how interactive F1 is I think is what Kevin's playing to. And like that is something that IndyCar definitely should build on. Like we should see this like realistically with the leaps that technology has taken, it's become easier than ever to create these systems. So I don't see a world where we don't have a more interactive tool for IndyCar fans over the next 2 years. Like it should 100% be accessible. If you've got teams that are using, these programs and these models now to help them with racing, which they've been using them for a very long time with data,
same technology,
just cross that over to the fans. Cross it over to an app. Find new ways to make it interactive for a fan. And it's just that diversifying that over time, you're going to get your portfolio real nice, and more people are going to invest. And that's all I'm saying.
It's just interesting to think about. And the one before we wrap this up, because I think we've gone for a while, and it's a great discussion. But I as we've talked about it, I think we brought up a lot of great things too. But does it if you're a North American motor racing fan, right? Like now again, I watch all motor racing. I don't watch MotoGP as much, but if you're I guess on this, you're like, well, they're creating quite an empire of motorsport. Does it worry you at all? Is it something that you're like, we should probably pay attention to what they're going to be doing in the next couple of years to try to take the market share?
I don't think so.
Nope. Good.
Personally, I'll just say this: it's like when you're sometimes when you're too busy focusing on what everyone else is doing, you miss the things that no one is doing that are become the new president to take the leadership roles. Focus on your craft and what you can bring to the table and how you can improve day to day. And that goes beyond business. That's just for everybody. Just don't put so much focus on what's happening everywhere else. Focus on what you can control and move it. And you're going to find people following.
Oh, yeah. Kevin, what about you?
I think in the racing community, it's good what Liberty Media is doing, because if they put motorsport in more people's eyes, you're going to get more kids out there that might be a NASCAR champion in 10 years from now and say, well, I watched Formula One with my dad on some TV show and I got a go-kart, but actually we went to a dirt track and I like dirt track racing better than road racing, so I'm in NASCAR now and I just won the championship. So you really just want anything to bring light to motorsport. And from there, the champions will come out of it, right? And you'll hope they'll find their own, like kids in North Carolina are probably going to go NASCAR if they like Formula One. Like they might just end up NASCAR because it's a NASCAR place to be in. So I think everything is good for motorsport as a whole, because there's so much of it and it's a big planet. And also there's so much money out there where you want every series to make money and all the drivers to make money.
I agree. I appreciate that, fellas. I think that was a good discussion. I kind of wanted to keep it, we distribute some time equally and not take up too much time, but that was good. I really appreciated it. Kevin, great work. We appreciate you being here.
Always like being here, guys. Always good to see you, Kevin.
Please, hey, the Indy test next week's on Peacock. Maybe you can watch it. Maybe you can check it out. We've got 2 days of testing.
The kids call it the cock, actually.
There you go. Yeah, Peacock. It's there. Yeah. So Peacock. We're locked in April 10th and 11th. But yeah, Kevin, we appreciate you being on here.
You got it, man. All right, Kevin.
All right, we'll catch you later. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Interesting discussion. A lot of points. Feel free to send us comments. Send us some questions about that. Hopefully we get some better clips this week where I don't sound like as much of a loser or as much of a kind of person who has terrible opinions. I promise I don't. I'm just trying to be a show guy, trying to answer some questions and talk about things that are hard to talk about. But anyway, appreciate Kevin, appreciate you, Chase, your opinions. We'll close out the show this week with a great Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
The greatest event of its kind that's ever been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. We'll make up the field.
And for this week, we went back to the olden days, and I found a great one. I swear I had used this one before, this human being before, but I don't think I have. If I did, then that's on me for not seeing it on the list. But we went to the 1934 Indianapolis 500, the 1934 Indianapolis 500, won by Bill Cummings. Won by Bill Cummings, the 12th place finisher, however, on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway website, is H.W. Stubblefield. Now, H.W. Stubblefield is Hartwell, Wilburn, Stubblefield. And in his Wikipedia, which again, we have no idea, Wikipedia is usually false. It might not be real. Possibly born Wilburn Hartwell Stubblefield instead of Hartwell Wilburn. Was an American race car driver, killed practicing for the 1935 Indianapolis 500. The first thing on his Wikipedia page, this is kind of wild, birth detail confusion. Now, again, back in the 1900s, I don't think they're writing this stuff down for Wikipedia, so we can see how there might be some
what
confusion.
Does that mean?
Yeah, so December 28th, 1909, but most sources say 1907 with no month or day specified. So he might be a secret agent. I don't know. Furthermore, a newspaper article states that he was 27 years old at the time of his death, which implies a birth date between May 22nd, 1907 and May 21st, 1908. At the time of his death, he was an LA guy, Los Angeles. Sources say, some sources, again, we have no idea who these sources are, but born in Los Angeles, or no, some sources say he was born in Los Angeles. Most say that he was born in Oklahoma. I've never heard more like potential about a person ever.
Dude.
The 1910 United States Census lists him as being the age of 2 when his family was recorded on April 25th, 1910, living in Oklahoma City. Kind of wild, huh?
Dude, is this a real guy?
I don't know. It is a real person.
I mean, dude, all right, for one, I find it interesting because he may have been the person that kickstarted the 27 Club.
Maybe.
All the greats. You know, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse.
Died at 27. Yeah, that's crazy.
He's from L.A.
That's wild.
I mean, who's to say? Did he have a music career? Did he sing songs?
So Stubblefield was the first driver ever killed during a qualification attempt at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'd love to actually hear if that's true or not. That's kind of wild. He had a riding mechanic. He had a riding mechanic as well, Leo Whitaker. They both struck a wall on a time trial run. Both of them were killed. So that's wild. Speed was 116 miles an hour. Buried at Angelus Abbey Cemetery in Compton. He's buried in Compton. So that's wild. He's got 4 Indy 500s to his name, 1931 through 34, with a best finish of 5th, top 5 guy. So not a bad career at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 2 top 10s, worst finish of 14th. So pretty solid for H.W. Stubblefield, or Stubby, as they say.
Yeah, from here on out, I'm going to say that the song Straight Outta Compton by NWA was written for him.
Yeah, for Stubby.
That's who it was for.
Stubby.
For Stubby, dude.
All right, folks, great show. Another great one. We appreciate it. Please follow all the channels. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. leave us a rating on the Apple Podcasts or the Spotify system, whatever you do. Let us know what you think. Be a friend and tell a friend about the show. Indy Test next week. Very excited. I finally get to pilot a race car again. So I'm going to have some ground level things to talk about afterwards. I'll be heading to Long Beach also very soon afterwards. Going to be tough to record the show the next couple weeks. We're going to have to find do it on different areas and places and locations, but we're going to do it. So we appreciate you guys as always. Thank you for being a part of the Speed Tree Show. Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.